Welcome back to Board Game Critique, where we actually talk about how to get people excited about the games we love. Today, we're tackling something that nobody really teaches you, but everybody needs to know: how to actually teach a board game without putting your friends in a coma.
Yeah, because reading the rulebook aloud is apparently still the default strategy for most people, but we've spent the last couple of years systematically teaching every complexity level you can imagine, from Sushi Go to Brass Birmingham, and we figured out a framework that actually works. It's kind of wild how consistent the approach is across all of it.
The craziest thing is that teaching has nothing to do with knowing the game. It's actually about understanding how people learn. We went from maybe a 30% success rate where people felt overwhelmed or bored to like 90% where they actually want to play again. And the framework stays the same whether you're teaching a light gateway game or a heavy Euro. It's player-centered, not game-centered.
Exactly. And once you understand the cognitive load problem, the fact that human working memory can only handle about 4 to 7 pieces of new information at once, you realize why info dumping the rulebook destroys people's brains. A typical medium-weight game has dozens of interconnected rules. You're asking their brains to process way more than they're designed to handle. So everything we do is about breaking information into digestible chunks and never introducing a rule until it's immediately relevant.
Which brings us to what we call the victory first imperative. This is counterintuitive, but absolutely non-negotiable. Tell them how to win before you explain anything else. Not the complex strategy, literally the victory condition. When we started doing this with pandemic, everything else suddenly made sense. The rules about treating disease, sharing knowledge, building research stations, they all had context and purpose, instead of feeling arbitrary.
We used to spend 20 minutes explaining mechanics that felt random, and people would be glazed over by the time we told them how to win. Now, we say in the first 60 seconds, you win by discovering cures for all 4 diseases. You lose if you run out of disease cubes, outbreaks hit 8, or the player deck runs out. Then, every single rule we teach after that serves that goal. It's like giving their brains a framework to hang information on.
So we developed a 6-phase framework that works across basically everything. Phase 1 is pre-teaching preparation, and this is where most people fail immediately. You cannot teach confidently what you don't understand. We learned this painfully with Scythe. We watched a video, skimmed the rulebook, thought we were ready. 30 minutes in, we're flipping through the rulebook trying to figure out combat mechanics while everyone stares at us trying not to look bored.
Our credibility was just destroyed in that moment. Now we have a hard rule. Play the game solo at least once, preferably twice if it's complex. Read the rulebook twice. Watch videos from reliable sources like Watch It Played. Identify the 3 most confusing rules, prepare answers for common questions, and critically, pre-set up the entire game before players arrive. Nothing kills momentum faster than fumbling with components while everyone watches.
Phase 2 is the opening, and this is where you actually hook them emotionally. Start with a 30-second elevator pitch that captures the essence and experience of the game. For Pandemic, we say, we're a team of disease specialists racing against 4 deadly outbreaks. It's cooperative, we win or lose together. Each of us has unique abilities, and we need to use them strategically to find cures before the diseases overwhelm the world.
That pitch establishes theme, player count, whether it's cooperative or competitive, and the emotional tone. It answers the unspoken question every player has: why should I care about this game? Then immediately state the victory condition, not some complex strategic explanation, just you win by discovering cures for all 4 diseases. You lose if disease cubes run out, outbreaks hit 8, or the player deck runs out. Then establish expectations. This is a medium weight game, takes about 45 minutes, and the first game doesn't count. It's for learning, so experiment freely.
Phase 4 is the core teach, and this is where show don't tell becomes absolutely critical. Don't describe the turn structure, physically demonstrate it. For Pandemic, we take a pawn and move it. On your turn, you get 4 actions. Moving 1 space costs 1 action. We place a research station. Building a research station costs 1 action and 1 card matching your city color. We treat disease. Removing 1 disease cube costs 1 action. The physical demonstration creates neural pathways that talking alone cannot.
Then you explain available actions in order of frequency. Don't list every possible action equally. Start with the actions players will take every single turn, then move to less frequent special actions. For Catan, that's rolling dice and collecting resources first, then trading, then building settlements and roads, then buying development cards, then playing knights or monopoly cards. This prioritization ensures they grasp the core loop before dealing with exceptions.
Phase 4 is explicitly connecting actions to the victory condition. You need resources to build settlements and cities, which give you victory points. You need 10 victory points to win. So your actions, collecting resources, trading, building, all serve that goal. This connection is absolutely crucial. Without it, actions feel arbitrary and pointless. With it, they feel purposeful and strategic.
Phase 5 is special cases and exceptions. If the game has asymmetric player powers, different characters with different abilities, explain them now. Give each player their role card and explain their special ability in the context of core actions they already understand. Keep explanations brief and focused on how the power modifies what they already know. Then address the 3 most confusing rules proactively. For Pandemic, 2 rules trip people up repeatedly. First, you can only have 7 cards in your hand. If you draw an 8th, you must immediately discard one. Second, when you cure a disease, you remove all cubes of that color from the board instantly.
Phase 6 is the practice round, and this is non-negotiable for medium-weight games and above. Have each player take 1 full turn with you guiding them through it. This isn't the real game, it's a rehearsal. Let them make decisions, but coach them through the mechanics. Correct gently and positively. This practice round cements understanding before actual consequences matter. After everyone's had a practice turn, reset major changes and begin the actual game. Always remind them this first real game is for learning, so don't worry about winning.
During the first game, continued teaching is needed. When a player encounters a new situation, explain it in that moment. This just-in-time teaching is far more effective than front-loading every possible scenario. Now let's talk about how this adapts based on complexity, because the framework is consistent, but the emphasis shifts dramatically. For light games, Ticket to Ride, Sushi Go, King of Tokyo, you spend no more than 10 minutes teaching.
The key is extreme focus on the core loop. For Ticket to Ride, you win by having the most points. You get points by completing train routes. On your turn, you either draw train cards or place trains on routes. Routes require specific colors and numbers of cards. You also have destination tickets that give bonus points if you connect certain cities. Let's do a practice turn. That's it. Don't explain blocking strategies or the exact scoring of long routes. Those emerge naturally during play.
For medium-light games like Catan, you spend 15 to 20 minutes. The resource production rule is critical and often taught incorrectly. When a number is rolled, everyone with a settlement adjacent to that hex collects 1 resource of that type. Cities collect 2. Then, the robber mechanic is crucial. When someone rolls a 7, they move the robber to a hex, blocking production from that hex. They also steal a random card from any player with a settlement adjacent to that hex. Both parts matter.
Most people only emphasize one part. For medium games like Wingspan, you spend 30 to 45 minutes. The habitat activation order is critical and frequently misunderstood. When you activate a habitat, you trigger birds from right to left, not left to right. That simple ordering detail significantly impacts strategy. We also explain the bird feeder dice rule. When all dice in the bird feeder show the same face, you re-roll all the dice in the bird feeder before taking food.
Medium-heavy games like Scythe demand substantial time. You break teaching into acts. Act 1 covers theme, victory condition, and overview. We spend extra time on the alternate history setting and factions because thematic grounding makes mechanical complexity feel purposeful rather than arbitrary. Act 2 is the core mechanical loop: worker placement, resource management, upgrade tracks. Act 3 explains faction powers. You only describe faction uniqueness after players understand the core system.
For Brass Birmingham, which is notoriously complex, you either do multiple teaching sessions or accept the first game as primarily educational. The network building concept is critical. Industries need to be connected via canals or rails to cities or other developed industries. One rule people often miss is how tiles flip and when they're removed. When an industry tile is flipped because you've sold its goods or emptied its resources, it stays on the board and will score at the end of the era. At the end of the canal era, only Level 1 industries are removed from the board. Level 2 and higher stay for the rail era. The Develop action, on the other hand, removes tiles from your player mat to unlock higher level industries. It doesn't pull built tiles off the map.
Now let's address the biggest teaching mistakes we see repeatedly. The cardinal sin is reading the rulebook aloud. This creates passive listening, induces boredom, and creates zero cognitive engagement. Never read rules. Paraphrase, demonstrate, and explain. Rulebooks are written for reference, not for teaching. They're dense, use technical language, include every edge case, and lack the scaffolding that actual teaching requires.
Information overload is another killer. Overwhelming players with every rule at once is cognitive murder. We solved this by teaching only what's immediately necessary and deferring exceptions, edge cases, and special powers until they're relevant or until the practice round. Teaching strategy instead of rules is a huge mistake. Players must discover strategy themselves. You answer rules questions completely. Strategy questions get counter questions, like, what do you think would happen if you did that? Or what resource do you need most right now?
Using jargon without definition kills momentum. Terms like worker placement, deck building, and engine building are meaningless to newcomers. You explain the mechanic in plain language first. On your turn, you place one of your workers on an action space. Once someone places there a worker, no one else can use that action this round. This creates interesting decisions. Then introduce the term. This mechanic is called worker placement. Now it has meaning because it describes something they understand.
Teaching without playing the game first is a non-negotiable failure point. You cannot teach confidently what you don't understand. Every stumble, every "let me check the rulebook," every confused moment undermines credibility and player confidence. Play the game solo at least once. This achieves multiple things. You understand rule interactions and edge cases, you can answer questions confidently, you can walk through turns smoothly, you know which rules are frequently misunderstood, and you can anticipate confusion and address it proactively.
Managing quarterbacking in cooperative games is another critical skill. In co-op games, experienced players often take over and tell everyone what to do. This removes autonomy, reduces engagement for other players, and creates resentment. During the teach, explicitly establish group norms. Everyone makes their own decisions. We can discuss our plan, but each person executes their own turn. If quarterbacking persists, address it kindly but firmly. Let's let Sarah decide what to do. She has all the information she needs.
Teaching without establishing game length and complexity expectations creates frustration. If players expect 30 minutes and the game takes 90, they'll become frustrated regardless of game quality. During the opening, state clearly, this is medium weight, takes about 45 minutes once you know it, and has some strategic depth, but the basic rules are straightforward. Teaching while setting up is another momentum killer. Chaos results when you're simultaneously unpacking components and explaining rules. Complete setup before players arrive.
The board should be displayed, components arranged, everything ready for teaching. Inconsistent teaching across players multiplies confusion. If one person asks a question and gets explanation A, while another gets explanation B, confusion explodes. Establish yourself as the primary teacher and politely redirect. Great question. Let me explain that for everyone. This ensures consistency and prevents conflicting explanations.
Now, teaching different learning styles is absolutely critical. Visual learners prefer seeing information demonstrated. Use physical demonstrations extensively. Arrange components clearly. Use color coding and organization. Create visual player aids. Allow them to see the full board setup. Use hand gestures and movement to illustrate concepts. Auditory learners prefer hearing information explained verbally. Explain mechanics in clear, organized language. Encourage thinking aloud during early turns. Use narrative and storytelling to convey theme.
Kinesthetic learners prefer hands-on experience. Let them handle components during the teach. Have them physically move pieces to understand movement. Get them playing quickly. Use tactile components. Let them take practice turns early. Encourage touching and manipulation during explanation. The weight and feel of wooden components matter to kinesthetic learners. The best practice for mixed groups is using multiple modalities simultaneously. Demonstrate physically, explain verbally, let players handle components, provide reference cards. This redundant teaching ensures all learners absorb information.
Let's talk about specific game examples. Teaching Azul, we minimize theme discussion because the theme is pasted on window dressing. Focus entirely on the decision space. This is an efficiency puzzle. You're drafting tiles to fill rows on your wall. Incomplete rows don't score that round. When you move a tile from a completed pattern line to the wall, you score that tile based on how many tiles it's connected to horizontally and vertically. 1 point if it's alone, or 1 point per adjacent tile in each direction.
Teaching Splendor, we explain the engine building concept. You start with no permanent resources. Each turn, you either collect chips or buy a card. Cards you buy become permanent gems. You never return them. This means each card makes future purchases cheaper. For example, if a blue card normally costs 3 blue gems and you already have 2 permanent blue bonuses, you'd only pay 1 blue chip for it. You're building an engine that accelerates. Teaching Carcassonne, we demonstrate tile laying physically. You draw a tile and place it adjacent to existing tiles, matching features, roads to roads, cities to cities, fields to fields. Then you can place one of your meeples on a feature of that tile. We emphasize that meeples stay on the board until the feature is completed. Then they return and score points. The final piece of advice is managing your own expectations as a teacher. You will make mistakes. You will encounter players who just don't click with the game. You will have sessions that fail despite your best preparation. This is normal and okay. Teaching is a skill that improves with practice. Each failure teaches you something about what to do differently next time.
We keep a teaching journal where we note what worked, what confused players, which rules needed extra emphasis, and which games succeeded with which groups. This reflection accelerated our improvement dramatically. After 6 months of intentional practice, we went from decent teachers to ones that other groups actually request. See you in the next video.